Hey everyone, have you ever stared at a spreadsheet and just knew there was more to the story? Like the answers you need are in there somewhere, but you just can't see them? Well, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into a really cool tool for seeing your data from every possible angle, the Data Cube. It's all about getting past those flat rows and columns to find the real stories hiding inside. So let's jump right in.
So let's start with a question. Look at this. Compare t-shirt sales in California in Q1 versus jacket sales in Michigan in Q4. Seems pretty straightforward, right? But if you've ever tried to pull that kind of comparison out of a normal spreadsheet, you know the pain. You're filtering, you're making pivot tables that get messy, you're basically wrestling with the data to get it to talk. This is exactly the kind of thing that simple, flat data struggles with.
And that really gets to the heart of the problem here. Look, spreadsheets are amazing, we all use them, but they give you a two-dimensional, totally flat view of the world. And when you're trying to make smart business decisions, you need to see how lots of different things relate to each other all at once. A flat view just doesn't cut it.
I mean, think about it. A flat table is basically just a list, right? It's awesome for listing out your products, or your sales, or your customers, but it's just not built to naturally show you the connection between your products and the different places you sell them, and when you sold them, all at the same time. You need more than just length and width. You need depth.
All right, so how do we fix this? Well, we build a data cube. And honestly, the best way to understand what that is to just build one together, step by step. We'll use a super simple retail example. Let's start from the very beginning.
Okay, here we go. One number, $56,000. Let's say this is our total revenue for all our clothing products for the whole last year. It's a single, one-dimensional piece of data. It's a start, but honestly, it tells us almost nothing. We can do way better.
Now, this is where it starts getting interesting. Let's add our first layer of detail. We're going to break that total down by two different perspectives, or, as we'll call them in a minute, dimensions, product and state. And just like that, our single number blossoms into a two-dimensional table. Now we can see, oh, t-shirts made 12 grand total, and we can see exactly how much we made on jackets in Hawaii. See? Way more useful.
But why stop there, right? A business doesn't just exist in one moment. It happens over time. So let's add our third dimension, time. And for this example, we'll break it down by quarter. This is where the magic really starts to happen.
Just picture this in your head. You take that 2D table we just made, products and states, for quarter one. Now imagine a whole new table for quarter two, and you stack it right on top. Then you do it again for Q3 and again for Q4. You're literally stacking these 2D sheets of paper, one for each quarter, and boom, you've just built a three-dimensional data structure. You've made a data cube.
Okay, so now that we have this idea of a cube in our heads, let's learn the lingo. Because really, a data cube just has two main parts you need to know about: dimensions and facts.
First up, we've got dimensions. These are just the perspectives, the categories you use to slice up your data. They're the labels on the sides of your cube. So in our little example, our dimensions were product, state, and date. Think of them as the by what in your question. Sales by product, sales by state. Easy enough, right? And if the dimensions are the labels on the outside, the fact is the juicy data on the inside. It's the number you actually care about, like revenue or maybe units sold. And here's the key. A fact is the value that lives at the intersection of all your dimensions. So that $800 in revenue for jeans sold in Indiana during Q1, that specific number is a fact. Okay, so we built the cube, we know what it's made of, but just having it isn't the point. The real power, the real fun is in how you can interact with it. Seriously, think of it like a Rubik's Cube for your data. You can twist it and turn it and look at it from all these different angles to get the answers you want fast.
And there are basically 5 key moves you can make with this data cube. These are the operations that make this whole thing so powerful and intuitive. Let's just quickly walk through what each one does. So first you've got roll up and drill down. They're total opposites, and the best way to think about it is like zooming with a camera. A roll up is when you zoom out. You take detailed data like quarterly sales and you aggregate it up to a higher level like annual sales. A drill down is the exact opposite. You're zooming in. You take something broad like t-shirt sales and you break it down into more detail like sales by specific t-shirt brand.
Next up are slice and dice. Okay, for this one, imagine your data cube is a big loaf of bread. A slice is when you pick one dimension and lock it to one value. For example, you say, show me sales for Q1 only. You've basically just taken one thin slice out of the loaf, giving you a flat 2D view.
Dicing is more specific. It's like using a knife to cut out a smaller chunk of that loaf by picking values from multiple dimensions, like show me sales for just shirts and jeans, but only in Hawaii and Michigan, and only during Q1 and Q2. You're dicing out a little subcube of data.
And finally, there's pivot. This is where that Rubik's Cube idea really comes to life. A pivot is when you rotate the entire cube to look at a different face. You're not changing any of the data inside, you're just changing your point of view. So you might be looking at a view that compares products over time, but with a quick pivot, you can spin the cube to compare states over time instead. So these operations give you some incredible power to just play with your data and explore it freely. But let's be real, is setting up a whole data cube system always the right move? Let's quickly look at the pros and cons.
On the one hand, the advantages are huge. The speed you get from this kind of analysis is a total game changer, especially for anyone who needs to ask lots of questions on the fly. And that speed leads directly to better, faster decisions. But on the other hand, it's not without its challenges. It's definitely more complex to set up than just opening Excel. You often need special software and people who know how to use it. And if your data is truly massive, we're talking giant data sets, you can still run into slowdowns.
So, at the end of the day, a data cube isn't just a structure. It's a whole new way of thinking about and asking questions of your data. It turns these boring flat lists into a dynamic world of information that you can actually explore. Which kind of leaves us with one last question for you. Now that you know how this works, what hidden stories, what secret connections could a data cube tell you about your world? Thanks for joining me.